Welcome to Retail's Most Wanted, the podcast that examines the latest issues related to organized retail crime and how retailers and policymakers are fighting against today's organized crime syndicates. I'm your host, Marty Carpenter, and coming up on today's show, we're going to talk with Jason Bier. He's the president of the community protection software company called Treuth. That's Treuth. Before we jump into that, a message from our sponsors. Retail's Most Wanted is brought to you in partnership with the Attorney General Alliance, where U.S. State Attorneys General collaborate on emerging legal issues and the rule of law at home and across borders. Learn more at agalliance.com. Retail's Most Wanted is brought to you in partnership with LVT, securing physical environments through intelligent automation. Learn more at lvt.com. That's lvt.com. Welcome back. Jason Bier is an experienced senior executive, attorney, and humanitarian serving in the media, technology, and public safety sectors. He's dedicated to promoting responsible data sharing and innovation across the world using the cloud and the internet. Bier is the president of Treuth, a public benefit corporation that empowers safety and unites communities through software that breaks down traditional communication and intelligence barriers in crime prevention. I want to know a lot more about that. So let's start here, Jason. First, thanks for being with us. Tell us what the Treuth platform is and how has it evolved to its current focus on combating organized retail crime. Is that how it started?
Hi, Marty. Thanks for having me today on this really wonderful show. Treuth came from the ORC issue. It's something that was discussed with me in 2019, early 2019. And before the pandemic hit, before any of the crime wave in this current era we're in took shape, and it was really something that that people needed help with, that law enforcement and loss prevention employees at these major retailers, especially, needed some assistance with. So I was contacted primarily because I have been in the public safety alerting space for almost 15 years, and I know how to build alerting software and platforms, and I've built the largest alerting system in the world through a nonprofit called the Federation for Internet Alerts. So I was, skilled in this specific challenge of building a next generation software that could manage crime and use a collaborative concept to allow better data sharing during these incidents that allows information to be shared more readily.
Well, I want to start here with the name because I see Treuth and it's Treuth. That makes my brain think it's sleuth and truth together. Is that how you came up with the name?
Yes, it is. It's simple. It's just the idea that really we need more truth in the world. I mean, there isn't enough credible information in the world to make good judgments on a number of different levels, crime being one of them. The proliferation of social media and the internet and news, it's hard to gauge credibility. And we need a closed environment for law enforcement to work with subject matter experts. And the only way to do that is to build a CJIS compliant system that allows for law enforcement to bring in experts in a curated network and to share that information really more readily. It allows for the truth to come out and allows for investigations to take shape in a really siloed environment with other experts. And so that's the sleuth part.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, how does Treuth then facilitate this collaboration and what steps are being taken to fill in these gaps in information sharing?
So when we started, we talked with just so many agencies. I mean, this was really built by them. We did the physical aspects of code, but it was really what do retailers need? And we built it from the ground up. This wasn't like, okay, we're going to put a website up and here's your PDF file. This is really, really in depth. And it goes into every facet of communication and data intelligence. What's the user experience like? What do they need? Well, it turns out what we really built was a system that allows for data entry. So you get an alert by an expert, somebody who is background checked and approved, and allowed into the system and goes through some training, very modest training because it's a very simple platform to use. It's on a web app or a browser, and you can use your mobile phone or your desktop computer, and you can enter these incidents in using categories and subcategories of crime. So, for example, in ORC, it might just be simple theft or fencing. And you'll have these people come and submit those. It could be law enforcement. It could be a local sheriff's department. It might be Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's. These people can come in. They're authorized to issue these incidents into the system. And then we have a way of sharing. It's so you don't get overwhelmed. Like, you don't want to get every alert. You want to get the alerts that are relevant to you. It might be geographically. It might be the type of crime. These are things that you can organize within the system using groups. So it could be demographics. Okay, I'm in North Florida. I'm in Central Florida. I want to know every incident that's coming in from that area because there's too many to really get inundated across the whole state. So in those cases, you can get sign up for groups. You can join a group and you in the system, and then you get a SMS text that alerts you to a crime that's taken place. And then you can communicate about those crimes. You can follow those incidents. And once you do, you can communicate. So if you're law enforcement saying, I recognize that suspect, this is who it is. We get that all the time. And that's a way of communication, simple communication that brings in the social media side of things. And you can, like a post on Meta, you can follow that post and you can then communicate with that investigator or that retail loss prevention specialist. And so that way of collaboration is really a remarkable advancement because there hasn't been really anything like it, as hard as it is to believe, in the country ever until we started this process. Now we have partnerships as well, and we're adding partnerships, especially this year as we expand our platform, which I'll get into. But we have ways of finding vehicles. We have a simple LPRI button that you can click on if you have a plate, license plate, and you can locate where that vehicle's been for the last 12 months through our partnership with Motorola Solutions. So we have really, really great partnerships. We're delighted to be partners with Motorola Solutions, and we think this is really the way that technology should be set up to allow for the latest technologies, to allow for technologies that really specialize in things because I think we're in an era of hyper specialization, artificial intelligence, and all of that needs to be able to be added to whatever platform exists. And so Treuth was built for the future. It was built to be able to add in a very user-friendly way new technologies that come, and it doesn't need to be from Treuth itself. It needs to be a value add for the user and assist communities in combating record crime in our country today.
So there's a set of security requirements for accessing criminal justice information, and it's something called CJIS or CJIS. I understand that's been one of those focuses you've had to have in becoming fully CJIS compliant as you expand into like functionality beyond organized retail crime that would allow you to do cases that really touch on organized retail crime, things organized retail crime funds like human trafficking and narcotics trafficking, even things like auto theft. How do you envision Treuth contributing to the prosecution of these types of crimes, and have they shown to be connected in any way from your experience?
I'll deal with that last question first. We have seen crossovers in crimes. So there are workspaces that Treuth has with law enforcement only, and those are in a pure sense CJIS compliant because they only allow law enforcement on them, but they have a much greater need for security because that's holding criminal justice information, and as a result, we can expand our platform into every facet of law enforcement. That's not typical in the retail sector. So like retailers are working with non-CJIS compliant systems, And what we would encourage is, using a simple system like Treuth that is CGIS compliant, so that data can be treated as securely as possible and be shared with law enforcement. That allows the exact thing you're saying, which is the crossover of criminal activity, because there are very few criminals who are out stealing from these retailers and then not doing something else. A lot of these vehicles that we are seeing are stolen. So what did we do? We went into the auto theft side of criminal enterprise, and Treuth now launched the first auto theft prevention platform in the state of Minnesota, which has horrible crime and auto theft especially. So we are now the platform of record in the state of Minnesota for auto theft. So we took the Treuth concept and we simply changed the crime categories to allow for auto theft and auto theft recovery to be inputted into the system. We also added auto linking, so that if one agency recovers a vehicle that's stolen, well, it'll automatically find that record in our system and match it and resolve it. So it saves the productivity is incredible on the system. It saves law enforcement time. And in a situation we're in where you have little resources, many of these law enforcement agencies need to save as much time per law enforcement officer as possible. Treuth is proving to be a real value add in that especially. But I'll add that human trafficking is a focus of our company. When Treuth was founded in 2019, we have in our mission, we're a public benefit company to reduce violence against women and children. And because we saw a rise of violence around that time in against children especially, and being that I've been in the space and I work with the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. John Walsh is a good friend of mine, and his son Callahan. And I wanted to make a mission that was worthy of building technology like this, because it's going to be compelling. I mean, it's a real story about how technology combined with good people is going to do immense goodness in our country, and we need that right now more than ever. Our country is going through a lot, and if we can build a technology that does some good, I think we all could benefit from it, and our families and communities could be safer, and children could be safer, and that's really a primary mission for Treuth.
Part of what you built, you mentioned the word link just a moment ago, and there's a deep link feature as part of this that draws connections between suspects and identifies patterns in crimes. I'm curious, how does this technology enhance the investigation and the prosecution of organized retail crime cases?
It's another time saver for sure. I mean, I think crime analysts are inundated with all kinds of things. There's a limited number of crime analysts that can that can do the work of what needs to be many. And we're dealing with a situation where the criminals aren't getting arrested in many states. I mean, they're committing crime after crime after crime after crime. So when they are arrested, you need to have some way to link the separate arrests. And so when you get that information, which is a rarity in many cases these days, you're going to be able to link that together, and you're not going to need necessarily some human to do that, because Treuth is there watching all of this information come in, and then is able to use a link chart icon in the suspect profile, as well as any of the incident profiles. There's a little spider web, and you click on it and it opens up a three-dimensional link chart, and it shows the links to other suspects, the links to other vehicle thefts or retail thefts, and it allows that information to be studied by analysts and just law enforcement generally, and retailers as well. And what that does is it gives you a map, so to speak, a key to what that suspect has been doing and with whom. And it's a simple concept, and it's going to grow as we grow and grow our partnerships. But the ability to add, social media handles, phone numbers, IP addresses, things that paint a picture of the harm that this individual is doing to our communities, it really will build, as we build the technologies, it will build out and be a real, net, so to speak, to catch criminals in the acts of doing multiple types of crimes and wrongdoings. And it's something that we built for auto theft, but it translates well into any other crime, like organized retail crime, especially because as they go to the different retailers and they're hitting those retailers with theft, it's going to show, where that history is. And he might go with his buddy, John one day and his girlfriend, Ann the other, but those individuals will also show up in the system as connected. So it's really a great tool for law enforcement.
You had mentioned a moment ago this higher commitment in some ways that you have to fighting back against or to helping with the prosecution of sex crimes and crimes against women and crimes against children. I wonder if you can just elaborate a little bit on how you have aimed to address this critical issue and maybe share any specific elements of that, some initiatives that you're working on.
Well, I've got several initiatives that we're working on. Unfortunately, due to the confidential nature of them, I can't share the names. But I can tell you that they're tremendous opportunities, and the attorney generals that we're working with more than one, that are going to take Treuth to the next level, and they're going to get rewarded for it because they're thinking beyond. Beyond what today, in your mind you can do. They're thinking very futuristic, but realistic, and they're going to put Treuth in their states in a way that I was hoping for when this started, and it's really a dream come true for me because I know it's going to help a lot of people, and it's going to do some tremendous good.
Yeah, one of those I think is Attorney General Moody in Florida, who says he's had a 30% reduction in retail theft by using Treuth. And I know you're working to launch in other states now as well. How do you anticipate Treuth expanding its impact in combating ORC at the state level? And what are the results that you're hoping to achieve?
Well, actually, Attorney General Moody is a fantastic individual, and I'll just tell you this: when I talked to her for the first time in Florida several years ago, she just looked at me and said, "Why doesn't everybody have Treuth?" That was the first thing she said, and I was just like, I don't know. I was sort of speechless. Here's the Attorney General saying, "Why doesn't everyone have what I created with my engineers?" And I was humbled by that, and I just thought, well, there is hope in the world, because she's a wonderful person, and she has a vision, and I commend her for her vision, and I think she's really taken Treuth single-handedly and made it what it is today, and I'd like to thank her for that. I see a lot of the same stars in the eyes of other attorney generals who really want the best for their states. And I think that's great, and I want to work with people like that. And I think that what we're getting to now is really the evolution of Treuth. That you start to see multiple workspaces, because we have a workspace environment where you can separate out categories. So you can have one workspace that's just ORC, and it has retailers in it. You can have one that's homicide. And you're dealing with serious, horrible crime that only law enforcement can have access to, but they're completely separate. But law enforcement has access to everyone as long as the agency wants to give that individual officer access. They can get into each one using single sign-on. So, and when they go into each one, the deep link works differently. It connects, a homicide with somebody who was stealing it at a store. So you're going to see different things if you're in law enforcement and you're a commander than you might see if you're an officer, a beat officer. But retail would never see what law enforcement would see across their entire state. So this is very nuanced. It's very complex in how it was designed, but the implementation is simple. It's managed by law enforcement. That's how it's going to expand. That's how it's going to grow, because it's simple to use, but it's very customizable, and it allows for the maximum amount of data entry, the maximum amount of data sharing in a very secure, a very controlled fashion.
Jason, I'll get you out of here on this. With your ability to aggregate prior offenses and build cases up to where they reach the felony threshold, how do you see the platform influencing policy regarding organized retail crime going forward?
Well, you can look at how it has been used. I mean, look at Ashley Moody and Governor DeSantis, Attorney General Ashley Moody and Governor DeSantis. They have changed the laws to ORC, I think, twice since Treuth was implemented. And how? Because the data is there. They have the data. They're seeing, okay, who's stealing, how many times, what's the totals, how can we, make a dent in this issue. Although I'll say they're dealing with moderate levels of crime. There's nothing near, the levels of some of the other states. But they are doing, at least they're not afraid to go and put this out front and center and say, let's see what we have here. And what I want to make sure happens is other attorney generals know that you need to put this issue out there. You need to see what the problem is. Otherwise, you'll never fix it. And so we need to really, move the ball on getting attorneys general in all of the states to just come forward and put this platform out there. Let it take a life of its own. Let it flourish so that we can see what the problem is and deal with it.
Jason, thanks for your work fighting back against organized retail crime, and thanks so much for joining us on Retail's Most Wanted today.
It's my pleasure, Marty. Thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of Retail's Most Wanted. Thanks to our presenting sponsors, as always, LVT and the Attorney General Alliance. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button so you can catch each new episode. We drop a new one 3 times a month. We're also on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Links for all of those are in the show notes below. Thanks for being with us, everyone, and keep up the good fight.